let me try and figure this out. Her view is that at the beginning of the universe, so pre-Big Bang, all the particles were there. And when the Big Bang happened, all the particles were dispersed, and the future, everything that happens because of the way the particles are built and act. And we don't actually have any ability to change how that happens. We have no ability to engage with the particles that are happening in our body. We are under their control because of the laws of physics and math. Is that correct, or am I totally off?
No, you're not totally off, Sheldon, and you're pretty close to converging on it. I don't think she would say there was anything before the Big Bang. Basically, it's thought that the Big Bang, I think she would say, most physicists would say the Big Bang was the time zero, or the moment of the emergence of nature, which is space-time, matter, and energy, laws of nature, into existence. So I think what she would say is that at the Big Bang, there was this massive expansion of energy and very quickly particles. And each one of these had particular momentums and properties. And in addition to that, there were certain constants that emerged immediately of physics and laws of nature that when you take all of this put together, everything, if this world, if reality is nothing more than just the physical world, space, time, matter, and energy, and the laws of nature, if reality is nothing more than that, then everything that happens after that is a result of the initial conditions of the Big Bang and the laws of nature, where the initial conditions are what was going on just like at the moment when the universe began to expand. So that would be her thing. And since she would say that since nothing there, all of reality is composed just of the material physical things, we ourselves are just simply material physical things that ourselves just work according to the physics and chemistry of the circumstances we find ourselves in. And so everything that you think is going on in your head, like when you're trying to come to a decision, that's just bogus. What happens is that really your brain is going through a series of changes that are dictated by chemistry and physics, that if you look back to what caused all those conditions in your brain, you find something earlier and so on and so forth that goes all the way back to the origin of the universe. So you think you're thinking, you think you're making a decision, but you're not. It's just a series of chemical reactions in your head. And in fact, you probably wouldn't even call yourself, we shouldn't really use the term we or you, because that implies some sort of self-awareness. I've been thinking this week about how could I best describe what it would be like if we didn't actually think and we didn't make decisions that were according to the rules of logic. What would that be like? And it occurred to me that it would probably be like something like a very fast sports game like ping pong or racquetball, where your brain can work as what's called a neural network. You can train your body, in other words. Some people call it muscle memory, that sort of stuff. You don't need to, when that ball's bouncing off the wall and coming towards you and reflecting off the sidewall and then the floor, you don't need to perform calculations or think about where you're going. It's your body is just trained that in these circumstances, the racket needs to be like this and you need to hit it that hard and at that angle. It's just, there's no thinking involved. It's just reaction. And that is possibly permissible if under the material world. So in the material world, we just simply respond and react to whatever stimuli we're at the moment.
So when I think of muscle memory, I've already trained my brain to teach my muscles to do something. So when I was a goalie in hockey, I would throw the tennis ball against the wall to catch it as fast as I could. So I was always training my body to be able to react. My eyes see it, and my body reacts, and I'm not thinking about it. It's really hard to do that in a live stream or create a video or anything like that, because you actually have to plan, and you have to, not that we plan a whole lot in these live streams, but you have to put some effort into it. You have to put your mind to it. How do the particles in her head get to make her a really smart physicist when I didn't get those? Like, is it just luck of the draw on why the particles in her head give her extra skills in that? Or did she go to school? How did she capture that information in her way of thinking?
Well, it's a good question, because under her worldview, even terms like smart, dumb, correct, wrong, false, those are just illusions like free will. I don't think she maybe realized that or got into that, but they're basically just illusions, because basically when you see an egg frying in the pan, let's say 2 eggs are frying in the frying pan for breakfast, and both eggs are not exactly the same. They're 2 different eggs. And there's no consideration about which frying egg is smarter than the other, or which is in a better position. Like, all these concepts, they're not there. They're simply a chemical reaction governed by physics happening in the frying pan. And when you lift that egg out of the frying pan, whatever happened in the frying pan is the final state of affairs of that egg. In the same way, we think we're thinking, but it's really a very much more complex eggs frying in the frying pan between our ears. It's just chemical reactions happening. There's nothing going on. And then we arrive at what we think is a decision. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that we actually think we're making a decision. We think we're thinking, and we actually think we have free will. And so, and not only that, if you were to ask me, or somebody were to ask you and I, why did you guys decide to do a video tonight on free will and what Sabine Hossenfelder said? We would tend to respond by giving some reasons, and they would be hopefully arrive at the logical conclusion or an inductive conclusion of some sort that, therefore, we're going to do a video on this topic tonight. See, we would be thinking according to logical progression, basically the principles of logical inference. That's how everybody thinks, or hopefully thinks. But that's not true if she's right. And so that's the problem. You experience yourself thinking and making decisions according to rules of logic. Somebody comes along and said, oh, you're totally mistaken. That's just a chemical reaction that was completely determined by the origin of the universe. I got a problem with that, and probably most people do. She would argue you're mistaken, but I would argue no. If your observation says that this such and such is happening, and somebody gives a fancy argument saying, no, that's what you observe is not actually happening, then I think the onus would be on the person trying to dissuade you from free will to beef up their argument. No, in fact, she gives a very good argument that we don't have free will, but it all is built on one premise. It's like the foundation for your house. The house may be firmly established if it's got a good foundation, but you whip that foundation out from under your house, you got a problem. In the same way, her fundamental premise is this: reality consists only of the physical world. That's it, governed by the laws of nature. So if you grant her that premise, then I hate to say this, but you logically conclude that you're not making decisions, not thinking. But you can't even logically conclude that. If you grant her premise, actually what all happens is just a bunch of chemistry and physics, and here we are. Every word we say has been determined from the foundation of the world.